Derek, thank you so much for jumping on the AIM podcast, man.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. It's my pleasure to be here.
This is going to be a fun episode. You and I have a little bit of context so we can kind of just tell the listeners. I had a chance, I was privileged to get a chance to work out with you last weekend in Atlanta, and we got a chance to, one, crush arms. We had a good training session, but I personally enjoyed our conversation post lift more than anything else. And I think, we covered so many interesting topics that we're going to dive into today, but I'm pumped to do this with you, bro.
Absolutely, absolutely, bro. It was a real pleasure to get a chance to meet with you, have a conversation with you, and get a chance to really dig into your mind as well. And as crazy as it may sound, we really connected immediately, which was a real special thing because that's a rarity when it comes to human beings, humans to human interaction. It's rare that people meet and click, but we did that.
We did. And honestly, like I couldn't, you said it perfectly. I couldn't say it any better. I think sometimes in life, when you find someone that's operating on a similar frequency with their, the way they live their life with positivity or their belief in, whatever the higher being is, and in our case, it's our faith in God, like the people come together. And I think that's when you can see some pretty incredible things in terms of the connection and the relationship you build with people. So I want to, before we dive into this, I know we were going to talk a lot about mind body connection, seeking from a higher power, but I want to hear a little bit more about your background and your story, just to kind of set the context of how you got to where you are today and even how you got into the fitness space.
Oh, of course. Yeah. So I wasn't originally born in the United States. I was originally born in Ghana. For your listeners, for everybody, the people that don't know, that's in West Africa. Um, when I was born in Ghana, I came here at the age of 8 years old. I came here, so I was fresh. America was very different for me when I got here. It was, I didn't really have a feeling for it, right? Especially because you're so young, you really don't know what's going on. Parents are making decisions about, for you and your life. So I had no idea what was going on until I went through this, through the system, went ahead and went to school, from middle school to high school to college. I've been able to experience a lot of different things. How I landed in the world of fitness has always been my escape, right? It's always been my escape. It's always been very therapeutic for me. Being young and growing up in a really tough home, it really forced me to have to do something to really help myself to relieve stress. Some people relieve stress in all types of ways. And I think that's a big problem of ours. A lot of times is we don't really find a source, a healthy source to go ahead and relieve stress. We take out our stress in all kinds of different ways. And it's important for us to have something positive in which that we can honestly take out a lot of our stress. So for me, it was fitness. So working out consistently, going through, I was an athlete all throughout high school. I played football, basketball, I played soccer. I mean, you name it. I had my hand in everything that athletic. So for me, I've been doing this for such a long time. I've been training for about 11 years now or so. I've been doing it for a really long time, and I've always done it as holistic and as natural as I could possibly do it.
No, I love that. And honestly, like I personally think that's the way to go about it. I think, we talk a lot with this platform about health and fitness is something I'm personally passionate about, but no matter if you love working out or not, I feel like it's some level of activity should be involved in everyone's life just for the basic health standpoint. And I think that's something that's not talked about enough right now, in my opinion. I think there's people are trying to push all these different solutions and methods of curing things. I'm like, why don't we just go outside and jog for 30 minutes or take a walk or, go do some push-ups? Like those things really do affect your health. And I think that's something we can dive into more. But I agree, man. I think you hit it on the head with all that.
And to what you're saying, you're 1,000% correct. Human beings, right, for what it's worth, and I've mentioned this before, people are really protected. I will always say that because they think, right, they quote unquote, right, protected, right? The idea is to really try to get us to depend on someone else rather than to depend on ourselves. And it's important for us to really realize that this is the only machine that we have, right? And I'm talking about the human body, literally the only machine that we should be constantly trying to improve, make better, stronger. I mean, the whole 9 yards, right? But we're not. We're more concerned about what's on the exterior rather than more of the interior. And that's the biggest problem when it comes to us, right? So when you talk about, you brought up a great point. America has a huge problem right now when we're talking about obesity and people having a lot of these underlying health conditions, right?
Right.
Where does that come from? It comes from somewhere, right? A lot of times, and see that the funny thing is what you're saying. It's crazy how we report some of the things that's wrong with America, but we don't ever look at how all of these problems are actually being created. Problems start from somewhere. Nobody's born, obese. Nobody's born. You know what I mean? These are conditions. These are situations in which that we all create for ourselves. So it's through somewhere. Somebody is teaching us, because we are all adolescents in the world that we are brought into. We are just trying to wiggle our way around it. Right? That's basically the truth. But nobody actually take responsibility and say, maybe we're not promoting health enough, right? It should be a lot more fitness centers when I drive across the street than there are of bodegas and Wendy's and McDonald's and all these places, right? It should be a lot more parks, right, where kids are skateboarding and have things that the recreational things that they can actually do. We should be encouraging that on the television. We should be constantly showing that on commercials, right? Health, fitness. We should be showing more of food and how we should be eating. It should be more greens that is being placed on the television screen instead of so much meat that's being shown on the television, right? There ain't nothing wrong with meat, but too much of everything is bad, right? They put the picture up there on McDonald's, whatever you call it, and you see all this big old burgers, a big old meat, and a little bit of letters and stuff placed there on the top, right? To make it look all pretty. And for the average person, they don't understand. That's where the problem stems from, right? Because when you constantly perpetuate the same thing over and over and over to a people, they're gonna think that it's okay and everybody is doing it. So it must be okay. In actuality, what it's doing is it's actually damaging them. And sometimes people get confused and they would think, well, somebody else is eating all this type of food. Like I know people in the fitness industry that's big on meat, right? That's big on, and they don't necessarily, they're not heavier, they're not having all these, but you have no idea what people are feeling internal, right? We talk about external, you could be pretty external all you want, but if your inside is not correct, it's a done game. So what you're saying, you're absolutely right. When it comes to the health, we as a people have to do better as far as for each other, and not just rely on systems and others to kind of guide us to health and wellness, because it's just real obvious that it's not in our favor. Because if it was in our favor, there'll be a lot more fitness centers. There'll be a lot more health there'll be expensive. Healthy food should not cost so much, right? But it does. So it kind of deters people away from it. So people would rather go get a quick a cheese sandwich, you know what I mean? Because that's going to cost them maybe $2 as opposed to going ahead and getting, you know what I mean? So that's the real problem. And we have to look at that as individuals. We can't look at anybody else to fix that for us. We got to fix that ourselves.
Wow. I couldn't agree more. I think that was a really well said. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Diving into this bigger topic of what we're talking about today, what is the mind-body connection? What does that mean? How do you put that into words, and how do you even describe what that is?
Well, so I'll talk about God body, right? So I have that as my thing. I consider myself this like a God body transformation, but God body training. And that's where that mind body connection really comes from. Because the mind, essentially, we talk about supreme consciousness, right? People are and this is through my faith, through my understanding. I've spent years, I've talked to you about it, reading the Bible, reading the Quran. I've actually educated myself on multiple different, religions, not just one. And from my understanding of one is human beings can really be able to tap into an extremely special side of themselves, right? And that's that godly side of themselves. So sometimes when we see some of these celebrities or some of these people, and we look at them, we're like, wow, these people are really powerful. Everybody's not able to function like that. What is going on? Is there something special about them? Absolutely not. The difference between them and everybody else is they were able to tap into that external side, that internal side of themselves, which is their mind. They're tapping into the deeper side of their mind to be able to go ahead and accomplish some of the things that they have accomplished. So when I'm talking about the mind-body connection and God-body, it's more so to get people to understand. It's more about tapping into the mental than it is about tapping into the physical, because the whole part of the whole game is about the mental. It's not about the physical. So a lot of times, if you're a trainer, so you get it, right? I mean, even training yourself, you can talk yourself out of anything. It's easy.
For sure.
You wake up in the morning, it's time for you to go to the gym and tomorrow is there, tomorrow is there, next week, I got something. You can easily do that, right? I have a lot of people that come to me and tell me, look, man, I admire your body. I want to look like you, but I don't have enough time in the day. Well, listen, there's 24 hours in the day. If you really want me to break it down for you, trust me, you got more than enough time in the day, right? You having a conversation with me right now on social media, you got more than enough time in the day, right? Because that is time that you're using to talk to me. We could be using that time to target things to help you mentally and physically, right?
Yep.
So the excuses, right? We create these things. These are mental blockage in which each individual create for themselves. And the only reason why we create that for ourselves, like I said, because we like to be protected. We're used to that protection, right? If somebody is not eating the right way and we don't eat the right way, it makes us feel good to know that somebody else is also on that same path.
Yeah.
But if a majority of us are doing the right stuff, we would get it, right? We would get it and say, well, I don't want to be a part of this club. We are creatures of basically we follow each other. We really mimic each other a lot. That's why the great saying is there's nothing new under the sun, right? And that is saying basically nothing that you're going to do has never, ever been done before. It's been done. Whether you have an understanding of it from someone physically or you were able to tap into it, we are all reincarnation of something, right? That's why we have some of the feelings that we have. That's why we can get emotional about certain things and certain topics. Even if we didn't physically go through it, we can feel it, right? We can almost feel it. We can almost have it we can feel it in our soul that it is connected to us. So for that very being, understanding that the mind has so much power, right? As far as how you could go ahead and tap into that different side of you to be able to connect to the physical part is big time. So I talk about I don't eat past a certain time, right? I don't even take pre-workouts or post-workouts. I don't take protein, none of that. And when I told you, you were surprised by it, right? And you said, how? And I told you I can work out 3-4 times a day and I go hard. I mean, you see my work, and I go hard, and so how are you doing this? Well, I have an understanding of the creator, right? So, I know the creator, not to, you can never know the creator, but you can have an understanding of the creator, right? Of creation, right? So for me, I looked at what our ancestors had done in the past, what they were able to do and accomplish, the people that built the Great Pyramids, the people that, built the Great Wall of China, some of the people that helped design America, right? For it to be what it is today. That takes an extreme amount of mental power. You just don't come up with that type of stuff, right? Because today, when we look at it, me being young and you being young, when we look at it, we in awe, right? We like, wow.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We're like, oh my God, like this is really amazing. And so we are only looking at it like that because it's hard for us to really understand human beings did that, especially at a time when they didn't have technology the way they have it today. And when they were able to do that, you look at Michael Jordan, right? This man was flying through the air. You see like, wow. Today we see LeBron James, so we're kind of like it's kind of like watered down to us, right? Because we have so many people who are able to tap in, right? That's all it was. People saw Michael, right? And were able to now you see resemblance of Michael. You see what I'm saying? So the only reason why that's able to happen is because it was once upon a time, it was done, right? So it was done, so it was shown. But only those people, only those special few who are able to understand it are able to tap into it. So i.e. the Kobe Bryant, the LeBron James, some of these people who are able to tap in, study it, tap in, and be able to go ahead and make it their own. That's all that I do. So I'm talking about God-body connection, mind-body connection. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about really tapping into the ancestral side of it, seeing that these people were making things happen with less. So therefore, there ain't nothing that I can't. I mean, they tell me that we get better with time. So I'm guessing that this generation gotta be tougher. We gotta be stronger. You know, we have to. I mean, we have tools and stuff to make things easier for us. So why not really, really master that God body connection and, you know, rely on the creator to give me the strength rather than to rely on something external to give me the strength.
No, dude, I agree. I think it's very these type of conversations are important because I feel like there's a large misconception. I feel like there's a large group of people that just believe like if I want to be the most healthy version of myself or be super fit or look a certain way, it's all about me just going to the gym and working out. And like you're saying, like there is such a missing piece there. The mental piece is what's missing. And that honestly, in my opinion, should be the driving force behind everything you do. And that's why I feel like, you know, this platform is, we talk about fitness, but really it's more about the mindset, like having ambition in your mind. But I mean, if you look at like, just for an example, like stress is like an emotional, mental thing people go through, but look at what it does physically to your body. There's a real connection there. When you're stressed out, you have fatigue, you have muscles like, or stomach pain, you know, you get tight muscles, like all those are physical things that have caused from your mental. And so I think there's obviously a connection there, I think, and it's important for people to understand it.
Absolutely, right? So people don't understand what happens in the human body when stress occurs, right? So I live my life 100% as peaceful as I can, okay? And I look, I can't stress that enough. Um, so I'm a real, you know, people call themselves an introvert. I am as introverted as it can really get. Um, so, and there is a reason for that, right? Stress is so important, right? Stress is so important because the moment that you stress about something, there are stress bubbles that are created in your body, right? That burst, right? And when they burst, they cause a lot of harm. So if you may have some type of certain type of inflammations from food that you eat, right? Whatever your intake, because a lot of times, look, the majority of people in the United States and different places around the world don't have access to healthcare the way that they should. It's just facts. Whether it's financial decisions on their own behalf or whether it's the system, whatever, people don't have access to health, right, as well as they should, or healthcare. So we don't really get to know when we have little small inflammations, when we having small, you know, small knickknacks that's happening internally that we don't see, and a lot of times we don't feel it, right? A person could be walking around with a collapsed lung, and nobody will even know. They won't even know themselves because the other lung will be working so hard, and that's just tell you how strong the human body is, right? The other lung will be working so hard to literally keep the person, you know, functioning. Somebody could get shot and they don't immediately die. That doesn't happen to everybody. Some people have such high adrenaline, they don't even feel that they've been shot until like hours and hours later. Once again, how powerful the human body really is, right? So when we talk about stuff like stress really creates a huge, huge, huge problem in the human body in which we don't really try to analyze. And one of the keys to really analyze it is understanding we have to create healthy ways of relieving the stress. Healthy ways of relieving stress. How do you relieve stress? People, stress is what? Frustration is a lot of different things. Some people, they will curse you the hell out. They will speak what's on their mind, right? If they're stressed about something.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, they'll stay quiet. Some people, they got to hit stuff, right? Some people, they got to, it's different ways, right? So different things happens for different people. But it can all be done in a very healthy way as well, right? There's healthy ways to go ahead and relieve stress as well, right? Such as going for walks, such as exercising, you know, such as reading, right? Reading a book or watching something positive. You know, there are actual things that you can actually do to help relieve stress in a positive way, right? Our thing is we don't relieve stress, right? Especially us as men. And the problem is because especially when you're a man, you're expected to hold everything in, be strong, be macho, be a lion, low emotions. That's the game, and that a lot of times destroy us. That's why we have our death rate is so high. right? Amongst men, all across the board. I don't care what race or whatever it is you're talking about. It is crazy. I mean, one, we do a lot of crazy stuff. You know, we do a lot of crazy stuff. You know, as men, because we love to test our manhood. But another part of it is the stress aspect of it too. Is we really don't deal with stress well because we don't have an outlet. We don't have communication sources, people in which we can go to and talk to about some of the things that's stressing us out. If it's not a therapist, somebody who's literally being paid to sit there and listen to you, it's not the same. You know what I mean? I'm paying you. So I know it's not the same. I know you don't have the same heart for me, for us to be able to, sit here and really get a real solution. It's different from me talking to you right now, right? Because me and you talking right now, this is like a brother to brother connection, right?
For
So
sure.
if you feel me, you can really add something to it. You can say, yo, bro, like, if you're going through this, you could do this. You know what I mean? And don't worry about this. Everything is all good, man. We're going to get through it. You see, you can do that without me thinking there is an agenda behind it. You're not getting paid, right? So especially for men, we have to really be cognizant about our stress and how we handle stress and really create something. I say fitness is it, I really do. And that's the reason why I have my platform, is to show people that everything that you have that's working against you right now, 100% of it, or at least 90% of it, is all mental. It's all mental blockage. It's all mental. Once you get past that mental block, the rest of the game is easy.
Dude, that's so true. I think, I read a book recently, well, probably a few months ago, David Goggins, Can't Hurt Me. I'm sure you probably know who David Goggins is, but he
That's my man.
talks, yeah, man. I mean, he talks about it. He talks about it all the time. And he's like, your body is going to tell you to stop way before you're capable of stopping. And so I think it really comes down to, like, are you going to let your mind control your body, or your body control your mind? Because we're programmed, like, physically to be like, all right, that hurts, can't go any further, or hey, let's ease up, we're going a little too hard right now. But in all reality, like, if you can start in the mind and be like, no, I'm going to push a little bit further today, I'm going to grow, I'm going to seek that resistance, and I'm going to push past it, and I'm going to see improvement. I think there's so much power in unlocking that. And it's just, are you willing to feel uncomfortable? Because that's ultimately, I think, the bigger problem in our world is, like, people don't want to be uncomfortable.
The people who are in the most uncomfortable situations today are some of the most dangerous people on the planet. I'm going to say that again. The people that are in the most uncomfortable situation today are the most powerful people on this planet. And the reason why is because if everything hit the fan, they can still find a way, right? Most of us are so, like, we are literally like children, nobody want to be uncomfortable. The idea is, let's make things as easy for people as possible. Well, there's a problem with that, right? There's a reason why we are born into the world imperfect. There's a reason why we are born into the world with flaws and all of these issues, knick-knack issues that we all have as individuals. I don't care who you are, you have something that's going on with you, whether you recognize it now or later. Everybody has something that's going on with them.
For sure.
You understand? Doesn't matter how much money you have, none of that matters, right? So it's really dependent on us, right? As far as what we can really understand about ourselves. That's really the real key in all of this. Some people, and I thought about this the other day. Sometimes you analyze where people are today, and you see some of the trauma, the traumatic things that they've been through, right? Some people purposely put themselves through those situations because they understand going through that is what's going to make them into this unstoppable being, right? If I put you in the woods somewhere and you can manage to find your way out of it, ain't nobody gonna come tell you nothing. It's hard. You're not gonna have the same view on the world ever again, right? You're not. So we talk about, people want to, talk about, they're spiritual, I'm spiritual, I serve God, I'm Christian, I'm all, people love to do that, right?
Yeah.
But how much of your faith do you really understand? How much do you really know? That's the question. How much do you really know? How much do you really believe about it? Because if you do believe, then fear is the last thing on your plate. Fear is the last thing on your plate. Matter of fact, you don't even want it on your plate, right? Because you understand. See, before when I was going through a lot of traumatic things in the past, when I used to pray for understanding. I never prayed for things, right? That's not a part of me. I don't pray for things. I pray for understanding. Because I don't need nothing. I don't. The good book says everything that you need is here. It's literally on the earth. Everything that human beings need. And the good book never lied. We've survived for millions and millions of years. And here we are today, right? Still surviving as a human race. There's 9 billion of us. We have multiplied, right? Tremendously. So so everything that we need literally is here. So the book never lied about it. So I understand it. See, you have to be able to analyze things, see it, and take it to it wherever you want to take it. I analyze it. It says this, and it fulfilled that. Mm-hmm. So for me, I trust it, right? So I trust it. Everything you need is literally here. So I don't go ahead and try to look for an external source. The only thing that I need is the main source. So I need understanding. Help me understand people around me. Help me understand situations. Help me understand what is going on. Because if I understand, I can do for myself. If I understand how to build this phone, I don't need Apple to make me a phone. I can make my own phone. You understand what I'm saying? So sure. I just need understanding. People need understanding. People don't need confusion. People don't need lies. People don't need deceptive. People don't need none of that stuff. In order for, and I told you, I made this point to you. People like to think, especially when they're in a high place or in a high seat, that they can do whatever they want, right? And it's not going to affect them. That's the biggest baloney I've ever heard, right? Because you sitting here and you treating somebody like garbage because they may not serve any value to you or whatever. Okay, fine, whatever, cool. But then later on, let's say you just forget about it and you minding your business, that same person turn around and then robs you or kill you. You could have helped this person and possibly change that outcome, but you chose not to, right? Because it's all about the individualism, right? With a lot of us, and that's the problem. We got to get away from that in order for us to be able to really elevate and get to somewhere even better.
I love that, and you made up a good point about fear that I just want to touch on one more time. It's like, to me, I think fear comes from like living for yourself and not living for something bigger than yourself. Because when you're living for yourself, like just being honest, as human beings, we were not created to fulfill our own desires. Like we were not created to fulfill our own existence. Like we were created by something bigger than us. And so I think when you believe in that higher power, when you have faith in God, like that's when the fear can be stripped away because he's got you. It's not all about you. And I think that right. ties full circle into what we're talking about. Is like when you put your faith in God, put your faith in something bigger than yourself, you do get that connection. You do get that spiritual connection where you're able to go from God to your mind to your body and go make a big impact in this world. And it's just a different type of fulfillment, a different type of energy that radiates from you when you're connecting into that source versus trying to figure it out yourself.
I mean, I told you, man. There's a reason why I like you, bro. You're really sharp. You're a sharp brother. But the truth of the matter is, you're right on. Once people get that understand that when you can get rid of fear, everything becomes easier. You hit it head on. You can't believe in a higher power and be afraid. Those two things, they just don't go hand to hand.
For sure.
Because if you believe in a higher power, you didn't make yourself, right? Someone made you. So if they want to take you away, I mean, they kind of got all rights to take you away. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, dang, I wish I could stay around here forever, but my time will be up eventually. So for us, we have to take that fear away. And you made a very, very good point when you said we don't live for ourselves. That's a great point. People would love to believe that they live for themselves. So that's why the point that I made about people thinking individualistically, people really believe that they're here. You don't do nothing without another human being. I don't care who you are. I don't care who you are. Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, you name it. Those people are not where they are today because they snap their fingers and things just happen for them.
For sure.
People made them. Other human beings made them, which tells you that other human beings are capable of making other human beings. But it's by choice, right? It's by choice. And that's where, once you eliminate the fear, you can understand it for yourself and say, wait, hold on a minute. Yeah, it's cool for me to go ahead and depend on someone to help me out a little bit. But is it really cool for me to just completely depend on that person to give me everything? You see what I'm saying? You got to be able to create that fine line where you can just step back and say, well, I might be afraid to do this, but I mean, what is it's not going to hurt me. You know what I mean? So what is the worst that can happen? Is you failed, and every time you fail, that's a learning lesson. That's a learning curve. It's a way for you to grow right there and then. People got to get away from that fear. The fear really, it stops. There's two things that happen when people are afraid. You stay still or, you start panicking. And that's the only two things that happen when people are afraid. And both of those things are not good.
No, I agree. I think, to your later point with failure, people are scared to fail. Like, and there's fear, failure, all of it's combined. It's like, honestly, failure is an opportunity. And I truly believe like your level of success, your trajectory is based on two big things: your experience and your exposure. And if you fail, you're exposed to something you need to improve or you need to get better at. And I think that's what ultimately, you're not going to make it to the top without being exposed to certain things that you have to, skills you need to develop or experiences you need to have. And so I think it's looking at it in the right perspective. And again, that's where the mind comes in. You got to have the mind first, because then the body will follow.
You said it right on. Stress, right? Stress, we talk about how bad stress is, but stress also serves as benefit in certain ways, right? So an example of it is when you exercise, what you're really doing is you're putting stress on your muscles, right? You're putting stress on your body, right? And that's really what's going on. It's like a sponge, right? You're squeezing the sponge, right? So when you squeeze the sponge, it's where sweat comes from, right? Sweat, right? Because you're squeezing the sponge, you're squeezing the muscle, right? And you're massaging it. So the massaging is what creates the sweat, is what creates the metabolism increasing and all those things happening, right? So when we're talking about really understanding fear and understanding the body, that body connection, it's important to get all stress. Not all stress is bad stress. So sometimes if you're functioning in a place where you need to try to figure out, well, I'm afraid of doing something, right? Because I don't know if I'm going to fail. Now we created a stress. There's a problem there, right? You don't know what to do. Then you have to overcome that. You have to overcome that in order for that stress to no longer become a stress and it becomes a strength, right? Next time the body don't recognize it as something stressful, the body recognizes it as something that you already been through. So the same thing with fitness, right? The more you rep it out, the more you get used to it. You can't keep using 20-pound dumbbells to do everything. You know what I mean? Sometimes you got to pick up the 30 because, the body is going to recognize the 20 eventually, right? After some time, it's going to recognize it eventually and say that, bro, we might need to go up a little bit more. And so that recognition is only through that process of the stress that's being created on it. So there is a problem and then there is a solution that's created from that. And so that's what that is really, really important for us to also be able to pay attention to.
You brought up a great point that's going to segue nicely into the last thing I want to talk to you about: body repetition, your body adapting to the decisions and habits you make. I want you to talk about your diet, because this was like, we talked about some incredible things that were deep, and like this was one thing that I was like, I just don't believe you. But talk to us about your diet, what you do, and how you view eating and everything.
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
This is crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, food is everything, right? food is everything. I'm very conscious about it because I understand, right? I understand that in order for us to be able to function, we need to be having the right things functioning within us. So I'm very cognizant about how I eat. So I don't eat the traditional way. A lot of times people eat 3, 4, whatever, 5, 6, some people, whatever. The most I eat is once a day, maybe twice in a day, right? And I've grown tremendously, right? Through the years, through my work. And it sounds crazy, right? That somebody can do this and still be able to work out 3, 4 times a day, right? It sounds insane, but it's not insane. It goes to what I was talking about, that mind to body connection. My source is bigger than what a lot of people even understand. My source is the ultimate source, right? That's my source. So for me, I understand that as a human being, you don't need to be putting a whole lot of food inside of you in order for you to be functioning. The human stomach is not even, it expands, but it's by this big, right? It's not that big for us to be having all these meals put into us. And every time you have a meal, it takes about maybe 3, 4, 5 hours for the body to just break it down and use it. And it stores certain things it's not going to use, and then it uses what it wants to use, and then it creates fat. And all. So for me, if you can minimize that, and you can give it the right supplies that it needs, meaning greens. So I do it. So I have a lot of greens, right? You follow my page, so you know what I'm talking about. A lot of greens. It's spinach and all types of carrots, all types of greens, salads and stuff. I do that per day, maybe twice in a day, right? And the reason why I do that because I'm gonna I do smoothies too. That's another thing I may do is I may do smoothies as well. So I may put some flax seeds, some different types of stuff in there that I get the nutrition that I need. But that's as max as I will go. And then throughout the day, am I not hungry? Of course I am, right? Do I not get hungry? Of course I do. But I understand that I don't necessarily need it. Some people somewhere else across the globe, they don't have access to it like that. They just can't say I'm hungry and go pick up their credit card, go to the store and go get some food. But yet they still sleep and get up the next day and able to function, right? And live for hundreds of years. So I understand that I'm not going to, what they've told me about how I'm supposed to be eating isn't the way I'm supposed to be eating. I'm supposed to be implementing fasting because I'm religious, right? Not religious, I'm sorry, spiritual, right? And spirituality tells me that sometimes it's good for you to take away something that you love in order to get to a higher power, right? God give us, the Creator gives up something for us to be able to sustain ourselves each and every day, right? We do a lot of rubbish. There's a lot of people doing a lot of crazy stuff out here in this world. There's a lot of madness that's going on in this world today and in the past. And the Creator has always found a way to forgive us and allow us to continue, right? So that same philosophy for me applies. So I'm very cognizant about what I put in me and how many times I put whatever in me, how many times I put it in me. So for me, I don't do I try to get away from the supplements. I get away from the red meat. I get away from all of that. I try to keep it as clean as I can. So as the most I do is fish, different types of fish, because omega-3 is so important. Stuff like avocado and all these, you know what I mean? These are things that you can really do, taking away heavy carbs, a lot of rice and bread, and taking that out of your diet because those things cause inflammations, right? Turns into sugar, and it's bad sugar and it gets stored into different places. And then we wonder why we get older and we have these complications, right? We don't understand. And we don't understand because we didn't understand that things that we were doing in the past was contributing to how we are today. If you look at certain animals, right, like the gorilla, like the elephant, like the tortoise, these are plant-based type animals, right? And they live for hundreds of years. You know what I mean? And they're super, super strong. And so you have to be able to put things into its proper perspective, right? And look at these things and say, wait a minute, the animals who are eating the fish, those things are living tremendously longer. These are actually real legit things. That's why in places like in the Mediterranean, the big part of their diet during the time of Jesus Christ was, fish and a lot of fasting, but it's really pescatarian veganism a little bit, because they do baked fish and vegetables and fruits, right? So that was a big part of their diet. You know what I mean? And those people lived for a very, very long time. So for me, I analyze that. I see that what people were able to do, and I understand that I'm the same type of human being as they were. So it's up to me, my choice, how I want to live for myself. And I just like living this way, because every day I wake up, I feel great.
I love that, dude. You bring up so many cool points. Just being quite honest, like I've never even thought of those, that perspective on certain things, especially relating it to animals, which I think is extremely fascinating. That's super cool how you did that. But Derrick, this has been an incredible conversation. I really appreciate your time and just your vulnerability to open up on a topic like this, which in my opinion is extremely important. And I appreciate who you are and your willingness to support the AIM podcast.
Oh man, it's a pleasure, man. I mean, the pleasure is really all mine. I have the chance to, it's always a pleasure when you get a chance to talk to the people. If you have an influence on one person's life, you have saved a life. In one way or the other. So that's, for me, the most important thing, is to get, the word needs to be heard by multiple people. And if you can have an effect on one or two people, I think you've done your job. So I appreciate your time.
I couldn't agree more. And I'm coming back down to Atlanta to get some more workouts in soon.
Oh, I'm always ready for you, bro. Last time you got me with them pull-ups, but I've been practicing. So,
Hey, you got to get the challenge done. You got to put it on IG, man. We got to see it.
I do. I'm gonna try to fit it in the schedule today.
All right, brother. Sounds good. Thank you so much, man.